Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Pappageorge Public Policy Update. I have as our guest with us today Mr. Gary Olson, who is the Director of the Senate Fiscal Agency. The Senate Fiscal Agency is a nonpartisan analytical group that does all the number crunching and research for us as we approach our budget decisions every year. And today we're going to talk about the stimulus package. And so I'll ask Gary to get us started.
Thank you, Senator. Well, several things. In a broad sense, the federal stimulus package, which is technically called the American Recovery and Reinvestment Act of 2009, was signed into law February 17th, 2009 by the President. And it has a very large amount of money in it designed to stimulate the economy. $500 billion of increased federal spending, $287 billion of increased or reduced federal taxes. And the idea is that because the U.S. economy is performing so poorly, the federal government needs to step in, try to stimulate the economy by reducing taxes, which provides revenue, more money for people to spend. Presumably that will increase the economic activity. And then directly $500 billion of additional federal spending on a huge variety of programs. A lot of that money will result in people being put to work, and so that's the idea with the stimulus. This spending and the tax cuts will go for a couple years. The hope is when this temporary stimulus money runs out, the U.S. economy will be back on its feet and will move forward.
Well, let me just, for our audience, to put these numbers in perspective. If we had $1 million in brand new $10 bills in front of us, the stack would be about 2 feet high. $1 billion is taller than the Empire State Building. So we're talking billions as well as millions here today. Gary, please continue.
Yes, there is no doubt. I mean, most people can't grasp $787 billion at one time. It's a huge amount of money. To give an idea, in Michigan, the state budget on an annual basis from all sources is about $43 billion. So this is almost 20 times the size of the Michigan state budget. That gives you, we have a significant budget in this state. So some of the legislature has already taken action. While the Congress passed this bill, the President signed it into law, the state legislature has a role in this process. And many of these programs that money is flowing through the state need to be appropriated by the legislature. And already the legislature has appropriated just under $900 million for transportation and transit projects. So that will result in clearly new jobs around the state, whereas roads that we didn't have the money to renovate, and that's not generally for new construction, mostly for fixing up existing roads. That money has already been approved by the legislature, signed into law by the governor. Those projects are going out to bid. Obviously, it's going to result in a lot more orange barrels than we would have otherwise had. There's significant funding for transit systems in the bill that's already passed. And then several weeks ago, the legislature passed another appropriation bill that had very significant amounts of money for K-12 education, including monies for special education programs in K-12 schools, at-risk programs in K-12 schools. We also have money appropriated for things such as weatherization programs to assist low-income people to weatherize their homes, help them save energy. There's already been extensions of food stamp benefits approved by that are already in effect. There's extension of unemployment benefits going into effect. All of these are part of the stimulus package. There's many, many other components that have already been approved. And then there's a very significant level of the stimulus package that is designed directly to help state governments balance their budgets, because our state budget is currently out of balance, and this is the debate today in Lansing, how much of that we're going to use to balance the budget versus cuts, and that's the debate. So there's a whole variety of components of this stimulus package. The tax cuts that are primarily for individuals most people have already seen a small, modest
Sure,
increase
yeah.
in their take-home pay, and that's already taken effect.
Well, let me just point it out. You know, the press would have you believe that all the money's been delivered. It hasn't. We've got two pieces of it, if you will. And what we did in the Senate, we formed a bipartisan group, 8 of us, as the stimulus subcommittee to make sure that when that money arrives, we properly allocate it and get the bill signed, because when this process gets close to the end, whatever a state doesn't spend returns to the federal government to be reallocated to other states, and we're making sure in Michigan that we're not going to be one turning any money back.
That's very important. A lot of these programs all of the programs have time frame that we have to spend this money by a certain point in time. It varies on different programs, but the state is making a tremendous effort to ensure that we capture all of the money available. Because if we don't, it's not like the money will go back to taxpayers, as you said. It'll just go to another state. So the state will do everything it can to get its fair share of this money. The debate about whether the stimulus package is too big or too small is over, because that was over when Congress passed it and the president signed it. So now Michigan is just doing due diligence. The thing we're doing is making sure that before the money is appropriated, that the legislature understands exactly how the money is going to be spent, because that's, as you're aware, Senator, that's part of your responsibility here, and the subcommittee is doing that. The staff that work for the legislature and the executive branch of government is doing that as well.
And it's not a very pleasant task at this point. We estimated how much money we'd have back in January, and since then, that estimate has been going down at a rate of about $100 million a month.
Correct.
Now, we'll have a new estimate in May, and based on that May estimate, we then go to our budgets. It's a very kind of painful meeting. 5 people get in a room: the governor, Speaker of the House, the majority leader, and the 2 chairs of appropriations. And they take that May estimate number and they divide it among 19 budgets: transportation, health, so forth and so on. And then those numbers go out as targets to 38 budget chairmen, 19 in the House, 19 in the Senate. And when we get our target, the first thing we do is raise Cain about our number being too low, but the budget's done. Somebody comes to me and says, "John, you got a huge budget, over $3 billion, $685 million in general fund. I want to do this program." And my answer is, well, we got this number. And what do we stop doing to do your thing instead? And the budget gets done. Please
That's the
go
way.
ahead.
We can only. This federal stimulus is just helping us avoid having to make more cuts than if it wasn't there. And this was a very important component of this federal stimulus. And there's 2 large pieces impacting states in this regard and aid to states. There is money. We're getting increase in the share of the state Medicaid program, low-income health care, joint federal-state program. The federal government is temporarily increasing the amount that they pay, reducing the amount the states have to pay. That helps us balance the budget. And there's a large component of this stimulus package called the State Fiscal Stabilization Fund, actually $1.3 billion, that's designed to make sure we don't have to cut the base operating funding for K-12 education, the operating funding for universities and community colleges. And we don't have to cut them. We would likely be cutting them
Sure.
otherwise, because state revenues, as you mentioned, have fallen below the estimate on which the current budget was based.